Season 3 is proudly brought to you by AIA, a leading life, health and wellbeing insurer supporting healthier, longer, better lives. Protect what matters most and AIA will help you to do it for life. You're tuning into A Wake Up Call, which is your weekly dose of purpose packed with science-backed tools to beat burnout and boost happiness.
Hosted by us, Tess Brower and 7-time world champion Layne Beachley.
We're the founders of Awake Academy. This podcast mixes raw life lessons, expert wisdom and practical tips
to help you stop sleepwalking through life and start living it on your terms.
You ready to wake up and thrive?
Let's go.
Before we begin, we have a quick favour to ask. If this podcast has been landing for you, please hit subscribe and leave us a rating or review. It helps us grow the show and keep bringing these conversations to more people.
Welcome back, Dream Team. Today's guest has built her entire career on one radical idea, that you are always worthy of the ask. Kemi Nekvapil is one of Australia's most respected executive coaches and a Penguin author like us, but she has 3 books, The Gift of Asking, Power and Grounded Success. She is a certified Dare to Lead facilitator trained by Brené Brown herself, studied the leadership at the Gross National Happiness Centre of Bhutan, and her podcast, The Shift Series, ranked #1 globally. She is a flower farmer, which I love, which tells you everything about how she lives and what she teaches, and she has personally coached the one, the only, Layne Beachley. We want to get into that later, Kemi. So if you've ever felt exhausted by your own competence, if you're the person everyone relies on and can't remember the last time you asked for something just for you, well, this episode will light you up, I'm going to say.
Why not?
Why not?
So, Kemi, we are stoked you are here today. Thank you for taking the time. We always start here, and that's asking the question about your own personal wake-up call. Was there a particular wake-up call where you managed to understand yourself better, find your voice, find your power, use your voice? Like, was there one defining moment, or was it a series of events that's led you to being where you are today?
Well, firstly, what I would like to say is thank you for inviting me onto the podcast. I've listened to a few episodes as well, and I've thought about this question. And I will only give one answer, but I have had so many wake-up calls through my life and through my career, because I think for those of us that are invested in our personal and professional development, that's the way it continually goes. We're always learning about ourselves deeper in different seasons of our lives. But I think one wake-up call that has always threaded through my career and my life in terms of where I live, my friendships, who I work with, how I work, is being very tuned into how does this feel to be here. And the moment that I feel, especially with like being an entrepreneur, as I know that both of you probably feel as well, just with creating the podcast and your work, is when I have that sense of boredom. Like when I just feel like I'm on rote now. I feel like I'm not getting to express myself and who I am in this season of my work or my life. That is always a wake-up call for me. And I don't take too long to shift or pivot when I get that feeling. I don't sit on it. I'm like, okay, what is the thing that needs to be done next?
Because as a corporate athlete, I mean, you almost prided yourself on being on rote and just continuously found your groove in that. Would that be a correct assumption?
Was, but I had so many shiny things in front of me. Like, oh, Tess, do you want to go in the coaches' boxes of the AFL team this weekend? Yeah, sure. Oh, do you want to, like, can you open this? Can you do, like, there was always shiny things. The mundane stuff became like bread and butter. But it was always really exciting because we were always doing new things. What was tough was going home and being bored at home.
Yeah, right.
Slowing down, tuning into what I wanted. Like, so to me it was, I almost felt alive at work and dead at home. And that is such a wake up. That was a wake up call for me. And I'm reflecting on your, you know, the entrepreneurship. I don't get bored because I work with Layne and she keeps me on my toes. And we do such impactful work, but I'm reflecting on like the boredom really was I had no life outside of work. That was my, that's how I interpreted that. What about you?
Yeah, like I reflect on my professional career, and I have a saying, Kemi, and I think I've told you this one before, that only boring people get bored. And so I very rarely experience boredom, and I crave boredom because that's where creativity really occurs as well, because I'm not being distracted. I sense perhaps that's why we have such a distracted society today, is because we're all seeking something away from boredom. As opposed to actually sitting in it, and like Kemi just said, is asking myself, how do I feel right now? As an athlete, I never really gave myself permission to sit and ask myself how I feel, because I was in this relentless pursuit of achieving, doing, creating, being, that I'd never really just sat, well, more doing than being. I never really just sat and just allowed myself to ask myself, how do I feel right now? And I'm I am getting better at that as I get older, because I realize now I don't have that endless reservoir of energy and focus and attention. And I have found myself in those ruts. And this is the question I'd love to ask you now. So when you do find yourself in a moment where you're dissatisfied or uncomfortable, what do you do next?
Yeah. And Kemi, I'm so interested that of all of the wake-up calls you had, and you've had an extraordinary life, why that one? What was the boredom that encouraged you to shift or change, that you felt that was the best wake-up call today?
Well, I just remember, because I said that there were quite a few. There was my husband and I taking our kids out of school when they were 9 and 11 to travel around Australia for 387 days. And the wake-up call from coming home back to Melbourne at that point was, I like the city, and of all cities, I love Melbourne, but I do not want to spend my life living in the city, which is why we bought a farm 5 years ago, which is now our permanent home. So that was a wake-up call. But just that feeling of how does it feel to the thought of being here? I remember as a professional keynote speaker standing on stage, literally I had done my thing and I had a standing ovation, which isn't always a given for every single thing that you go to. And literally as I was walking off stage, I thought to myself, I am so bored. And yet my head was telling me, but you've got a standing ovation, but these people love what you're doing. You can just keep doing this again and again and again and again, and you'll keep getting the same results. And I just thought, but I'm bored of telling the same stories about the same thing. And I want to take the time to look at how can I now contribute to the audiences that I stand in front of, where there is that, I wouldn't say that I'm a big risk. I'm not someone that kind of goes toward risk. Obviously, athletes yourself, like there's a level of risk that you are trained to go into. And although I have done a lot of endurance, it's kind of a controllable risk, but I've always been willing to take the risk that allow me to feel that I am contributing my best in whatever situation I find myself in. So for me, I think I wanted to share, that the thread of the wake-up call as opposed to one particular one, although I suppose I've given you two now, because it's been very much as someone who has had, Layne's mentioned meditation. I have been meditating and practicing yoga for over 30 years now. I really listen to what my body tells me. And it does take practice to listen to our bodies. I think we do live in a world where we can be distracted from everything that matters to us with this full sense that, no, this should matter, as opposed to taking the time and the stillness and the space to ask ourselves the questions, what actually matters to me in this season of my life? And for me, that is one of the most important, and it's a question of wealth. It's kind of a question of wealth to be able to give ourselves the time in a world that's trying to take our time.
Yeah. And the really important thing there is around the season that we're in, because we do all go through seasons. So something about that standing on stage and receiving that standing ovation, it's so validating. But you talk about the performance, like the full body performance yes versus the real yes. So when you walked off that stage and you went, I'm so bored, was that statement to you a full body no? Or was it was essentially it's a real yes towards something else?
Yes, that's what it was. Like, great question. I think it was a full body yes to not this anymore.
Gosh, that's so profound.
A full body yes to change.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A full body yes to it's time. to change.
I'd love to invite everyone listening today to learn through Kemi's poetic statement of her life. What is success to you right now in this season of your life? And a full body no is one of the best things you can have, right? So what did you do? You received this full body no.
It was a full body yes towards something else.
I love that. That's the title right there.
Yeah.
What did you do in that moment? Because I can name maybe 10 people I'm thinking of right now that we work with who are in these like really pivotal moments of their life that don't know what to do now. What did you do?
Good question. I probably would have sat and journaled a lot and meditated, but not to think about it. I would have moved it through my body over a period of time. I think whenever any of us have these full body yeses or nos, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're jumping off of the cliff. You know, one of the things that I share in my book, Grounded Success, is that for some of us, and this is why we have to understand who we are and we do change. But for some of us, we get that full body yes and we're like, right, I'm jumping off the cliff. I'm going, yup. And for others of us, it's like, right, I want to go and have a look over the cliff. Okay, how far is it down? Okay, I want to source an eco-friendly mattress, recycled wood, build a ladder. That's going to take a little bit of time. Might want to make sure there's some snacks on the way down so that when I land, I have created the perfect place where I feel safe. For some people's nervous systems, the idea of jumping off a cliff is paralyzing and or that is not an option. It's just actually not a reasonable option in that season of life. Where for others, it can just be like, yeah, I'm just going to shake it all up. And whatever, you know, the chips will fall how they may fall, and I'll work it out because they have a knowledge of themselves of being able to work it out. For others, have different levels of risk. For me, it would have been more of a little bit of everything, like a little bit of heart. How does it feel? A little bit of my gut feeling, what sort of coaching credential do I want to look at now? How do I want to show up for female leaders in the world now? And then my head would have been around what am I hearing from audiences? What am I learning from my clients? What seems to be the theme of what is showing up that women leaders, whether that's entrepreneurs, whether that's corporate, what am I noticing is needed right now? And then how can I contribute what is needed? And that really lights me up.
Oh,
sorry, that's the other
that's
bit.
The most important bit.
That's the most important bit. And what was that? Yeah. What were you hearing, seeing, feeling, and what was your intuition telling you, and was it right?
Yeah, 100% right. So this was at the beginning of my business here in Australia, where I was doing a lot of raw food, and this idea of adding more energy to your life gives you life. What I was noticing was that regardless of how many times I would say to mainly women in the room, this is not about weight, this is not about dress size, this is about adding Mother Earth's energy to your body to give you a sense of clarity and energy about the life you want to live. It didn't matter how many times I would say that. I would have women say the equivalent of, yes, but does cucumber have more calories than celery?
Oh, wow.
And which was funny the first few times.
Yeah, and sad.
Until it actually made me really sad. And I thought and it was a time when Instagram was just starting. So then there was a lot of kind of the raw food stuff coming onto Instagram, which was the complete opposite to my philosophy, which was don't change what you're eating, just add more raw to what you're eating. Still eat cake, still have your coffee, still do your thing, just add a little bit more. But the Instagram message became it's about diet and weight loss. And I just thought I need to step out of this. I either have to fight this space. I've never been into that, to be honest. I thought, or I can just step back, I can step out. And I realized I want to create a space where women can work out how they want to spend their life and who they want to be while they're living it. So I shifted from the food space into well-being, and well-being for me is everything, as in health, it's inputs, media inputs, friendships, relationships, work, contribution, delight, joy. And I thought I want to create a space for women to show up and answer those questions, not whether cucumber has more calories than celery.
And it's a beautiful space that you've created, and you've done it beautifully. I want to go back just to round that whole conversation out around risk, because you were talking about standing at the edge of the cliff. For women to step into this space is going to take an enormous amount of risk because it's going to be uncomfortable to do something differently. Have you found, because what you said resonated with me in regards to the risks that I've taken, especially as an athlete, and have you found that risk has seasons as well?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's so funny. The first thought that just came up for me there is what it is for those of us that are parents, what risk looks like in different seasons compared to being a parent. Do you know what I mean? I now have 2 young adults that have left home, and not that I feel like it's a risk, but it is a risk. Like, I wanted to raise independent children. I have raised independent children, and they take risks. And the risk for me as a parent is knowing that balance of when to step in and when to step out. You know, like risking taking away the agency and autonomy that I wanted to give them, even when I as a parent could just be like, oh my lordy, that is not a good idea, you know? Yeah. But also not wanting to risk that they would ever doubt that I trust them and their capacities and capabilities, which is very different than letting them climb the tree. You know, I've listened to a couple of the podcasts, and Layne, you were talking about healthy neglect. I raised my children very intentionally with very, very deep levels of healthy neglect. I would let them climb the tree. I never said, oh, be careful. No, it's like, I'm here. If you fall, I would never run to my children unless they actually screamed. Yeah. And it was amazing to see how they would kind of just stand up, dust themselves off and climb back up the tree unless I ran towards them. So I think there is different risks in our seasons, 100%. When we're in our 20s, for those of us that love travel, you do take risks, you do things. But once you have a mortgage, say, or you have responsibilities, or you're looking after elderly parents, the risks you take have to change within the seasons. I think that's how we honor the seasons of life. I think the dangerous thing is to take risks that kind of don't match the season that you're in. So, for example, if you are someone that were in a season of mental health crises or just having to manage your mental health, that maybe isn't the time to go to a Thai full moon party for any of the listeners that have ever been to one.
Drink the mushrooms and then come home.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, Vipassana might be a great time, but also Vipassana could be a really bad time to kind of sit in your brain with a group of strangers for 10 days in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Maybe that's not a risk to take then. Yeah. Or exactly taking mushrooms and going off on a canoe to some random island, you know. So, you know, very extreme versions of that. But I do think but I think it's a great question to ask ourselves for those where we're wanting that sense of, I want the different thing. And I'll ask my clients, you know, what would be the most risky thing for you to do right now? What would be the least risky, like the most safe? And then depending on the client, and what does the middle look like? You know, it doesn't have to be the most risky, but what does the middle look like that for you, for your nervous system and your current responsibilities is a risk that you're willing to take and you're willing to meet whatever those circumstances or consequences might be.
Because you started the conversation talking about, well, we obviously talk about intention and intuition and having the courage to sit in the awareness of your intuition. I'm just thinking about back when I retired from pro surfing, and it was a really easy decision to make. So I didn't stand on the end of the cliff and go, I need the ladder and the mattress. I'm like, I'm out of here. Yeah. I'm done. Similar to you walking off stage. And that was really simple. But then this year, I decided to retire from club surfing, from competing for my board riders club. And that's the one that I need the ladder, the mattress and the snacks from. So I'm just noticing, I'm wondering whether I'm seeking to protect my ego in that stance, or it's just I'm not trusting in my ability to step back. Like there's a lot of dynamics to be considered especially when you're competing for a club. So you know, there's that element, especially we find this with women, right, Kemi, where we're afraid of letting others down, and we've got a scarcity mentality, and we have expectations on ourselves, which are the 3 things that stop us from putting boundaries around our energy and time. What do you find is the biggest roadblock for women to just own their own power?
Oh, huge question. I just want to speak to what you just said there, Layne, because I think it's really powerful that we are aware that we have egos and when they are at play, and there's nothing wrong with them. As we've spoken about, it's our ego that gets us out of bed in the morning. It's being able to say, my ego needs a little bit of comfort, actually. And so I do need a mattress and some really good snacks for this exit.
Yeah.
But it's being able to say, yeah, I have an ego and it would be wounded if I jumped off of the cliff. And this is how I'm going to look after myself. We're all human beings with egos. Regarding women and their power, I mean, it depends on the woman. As you know, I'm not a fan of top tips, but it depends on the woman. It depends on in what area of her life she's feeling powerless. For some, it could be inherently in her body, wherever she is, wherever she's going. For others, it's in a particular room with a particular person or particular people. And once again, as a coach, the most powerful tool I have is to mirror back and to ask questions.
So Kemi, can I ask you, sorry, can I just
Yeah.
interrupt and ask you this in this moment? We love to make ourselves the guinea pigs in this podcast because it gives, we ask people to learn with us and through us because we are the mirrors to them as well. Would you be so gracious to use your tool, not your top tip, with LB to help her through this moment that she is stuck in?
What was that noise?
That's just
LB's just been volunteering.
That's Tess always volunteering me to do something.
Hey, I did live coaching too.
So what is the current struggle or process, Layne?
The current struggle or process is that I have said to my club, my local board riders club, that I don't want to compete any longer. And they still wholeheartedly invest in me and believe that, or they know, because I know that I'm the best female surfer at the beach. So they rely on me to perform for them. And I've raised the right flag and said I retire. I don't want to compete anymore. And they've basically said, we need you to help us qualify. So I said, I'm done. And they said, resignation declined. And then I've said, I just don't want to do this because I love surfing so much, but I don't enjoy it as much when I've got a jersey on unless it's just an expression session. So it's a freedom to perform as opposed to the demand to perform. And then I said to the team recently, all right, I'll help you qualify this year and then I'm done. So I kind of keep retiring and keep coming back.
And as a personal input here, Kemi, one of the saddest moments I've ever seen Layne in is her competing and not being happy within herself. And that's why there was so much, it was like a wounded, she was like a wounded puppy is the energy that I had where she was like, I've lost the joy and the fun in this and I don't think this is serving me anymore.
It's too much pressure.
There was so much pressure and one of her surfing coaches once said to her, you've lost the dance, LB, remember to dance, which was so beautiful. As a friend, I was watching her decline mentally because there was so many different pressures coming into your life and I just felt like, well, does this serve you? And you said,
no.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, to be honest, it sounds to me, obviously we're not going to do a full coaching session, but to be honest, it just sounds to me that you've already made the decision that you're going to help them qualify for this year and then you're out.
Yes. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
So that
and
was easy.
That was it.
Yeah.
And the only next question I would ask is what's the support that you need to put around you? What are the tangible things you need to put in place to not recant on the boundary once you put it in place? So what I'm hearing is that we need you, that pulled you in. You know, we've spoken about this idea of how we need to know how we get seduced. How do we get seduced? How do we step over our own boundaries? We all have our different seductions. And for many women in particular, it is you are needed. We can't do this without you. Because we're socialized to be needed and to be available and to make sure that everyone around us has what they need to be needed. So to be able to go, oh, actually, what I need in this season of my life is to live in integrity with myself. So then it just becomes, so what do I need to put in place to make sure that I'm in integrity with myself?
And just staying true to that boundary and just going, after this, I am not, I'm not succumbing to the seduction.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, with someone who's done so much work and self-work on your worthiness, especially being adopted, being needed is such a big lesson for you that when you hear needed, you go, you retract. Because it's like I see this in your work life as well. So many people need your name to do X, Y, and Z, and that shuts you down.
Yeah, unless I really, really want to be there.
Yeah, unless you really want it. But then because your adoptee mentality comes in and go, no, I've got to put myself out there. I've got to be there.
Got to keep giving.
So you're like trapped in the need.
Yes, I am trapped in the neediness. How do I
And yet
step
the
out
most
of that?
powerful thing is that we all know where we get seduced.
Yes.
You know, that is the powerful thing. And it sounds like as well what you have done is that you said no and they said, oh, please, one more time. And you said, okay, that's the middle.
Yeah.
So the middle is I'm going to come back for this year and that's it.
Yeah. And then I'm done. So let's talk a little bit about the yes woman. Do you know the women who always say yes to everything and they put themselves forward? I find that in my life, if I become the yes woman, because I pride myself on being able to help people and listen and provide answers and guidance and also just provide the safety to allow people to download. How can I improve my ability to ask for what I need when I'm so good at just listening to what everybody else needs?
What do you need?
Well, I need the safety to be able to share my concerns or my problems. But perhaps I view myself as I need permission to have a bad day.
Who are you waiting for permission from?
Me. Damn you, Kemi. You're right. It is just me.
Are you a yes woman? Tess, are you a yes woman? Do you identify as a yes woman?
I am. We talk about risk profile. I know you want a really quick answer from me right now, but can't give it to you. I'm sorry.
No. I don't need a quick answer for you. I was just curious because I don't identify as a yes woman, so I'm just curious to know.
Yeah. So when you talk about risk, my risk profile right now is really high because I'm on a quest to be successful in the world that we're in, which is why I love redefining success with you as we're processing this podcast, and all of your beautiful books and teachings is like understanding what success really means. My trap in that is that I say yes, 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 because I'd rather be busy in the doing because it's moving me closer to more success or more opportunities. So I am on the quest for yes. And sometimes I think that's not healthy for me. And I'm so aware of saying yes to one thing is saying no to another. And I have a 4-year-old boy, stepkids, a beautiful place that I live. Like on all measures of success, my life is beautiful. But my quest for more is where my yes gets out of control. So I burn myself out in the yes.
So perhaps yes, she's a yes person.
Well, it sounds like in this particular area of life, like what I'm hearing is that you're really clear around where success is very grounded for you and you're really clear of what it feels like and what it looks like. And yet in this area of career or the podcast or a combination of all of those, you're in a season where you need to and want to be saying yes because you sense that that's going to get you closer to this success.
Exactly. So I'm a no at home. Like I'm very protective of home. I've got really strong home boundaries, but work, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And that's where we get into tension. I'm like, Layne, we've got to do this. We've got to do that.
And I'm like, no. The surf's pumping.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it's different.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why you're a good partnership as well, because, you know, you're able to be able to mirror that in each other. It's fantastic.
Do women burn out because we do too much or will we ask for too little?
I don't know. Why do you burn out?
I don't burn out so much anymore.
Ah.
I would say you emotionally burn out.
Oh, thanks.
I would say that you do have these emotional burnout moments.
Yeah, I do. Yes. Perhaps because I've just pushed myself too hard. I'm finding, Kemi, as you're getting older, as I'm getting older, as we're all getting older, we're all aging here, but I'm getting,
Mhm.
I'm in my mid-50s now, and I'm becoming more aware of my energetic field.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How would you describe your energetic field?
So energy is so important. I was thinking, I have this thing at the moment, and I think this is also I identify strongly as an introvert. You know, I was kind of
Yes.
joking that you're the first people I've spoken to do today is over the kangaroos. I'm like living my best life. But I like to spend my time with people now where I have control of who I spend my time with, because sometimes you're just in a room with people. Either with people where when I leave their presence, I have the same energy profile as when I met them, or my energy is lifted when I leave them. What I don't want, because I talk about in Grounded Success, in particular about life energy, I don't want to find myself in situations repeatedly with the same person where I have less energy than when I started. Now, obviously, we all have times in our lives when we are not in a great place, and our friendships and our relationships, people just not in a good place, and their energy is going to be low. And sometimes we do feel drained, or we kind of feel a bit leached of energy. But if this is a person that we've committed to in our life as a friend or a family member, that's fine. Life happens. But I definitely now use my energy levels to identify how much time do I want to be with this person. Because life is very limited. Even though the Western society doesn't like to look at death, it's the one given for every single one of us. And also someone in early 50s, 52 in July, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I just don't have time. I live my life very intentionally. I am nowhere by accident. And yet, 2 times last year, I found myself somewhere by accident because I had got seduced into a situation. And it was great because I was like, oh, yeah, this is why I don't do this. So I'm also a very big advocate for us sometimes doing the things that we don't do to just check, do I still not do them?
Yeah.
Or do I actually do them?
What's
You
your
know,
seduction?
like it is,
What's your seduction of your boundaries?
Yeah. What seduces you?
Oh, it's normally for me, it is working with other marginalized communities in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are things that I have said yes to in the past where it just falls out of realm. Like I generally don't work on a Sunday. Like there are just things that I just don't do, but just that thing of like, I really wanted to do the thing. It was going to be a really incredible event that even I as an individual person wanted to be at. But I already knew that it kind of was going to be over my work dates for that year. And I said yes. And then I tried to pull out, but they had already done their part of it, which was great. So then I was like, okay, well, you're kind of in now. And it was great because as I drove home from that event, I was just like,
Yeah.
this is why you do not step over your boundaries, because my resentment radar is very high. And I never make it about the other people. It's always, where did I step over my boundary that I feel like this? I'm never, they made me, they this, they that. Where did I step over my boundary that I feel resentful?
Yeah, I love that level of self-awareness, Kemi. And that was when I talked about the risk profile. I think one of the riskiest things you can take is open Pandora's box to learn about yourself. And because as Buddha says, like, yeah, best you don't start, but if you do, best you don't stop. And I can see why over your life you've got so many different coaching credentials, because the onion layers, like I think they go quickly and then they get harder to rip off the closer you get to the core, because it's like inner root cause. When you started your self quest and opened Pandora's box, to the person listening who has just started or is thinking about starting or basically says therapy isn't for me, how do you bring people in so that they can look at their energy and going, because I talk to my stepkids about energy, and I use it in the sense when the universe is giving you all of these signals that your energy is off, only you can change it in that moment. So look for these signals. How do you coach people through taking that first, we've used the metaphor a few times, the first jump How do you help people like hold out your hand?
Well, this is a thing, because that's a great visual test, because I always talk about walking alongside my clients. So I'd never got my hand out to them.
Mm.
They have to have their hand out to me, and then I will walk alongside them. I'm never behind them pushing. I'm never in front of them pulling. I'm side by side saying, where do you want to go now? So I can have someone come to a coaching call and they'll literally begin the coaching call with, I really want to talk about my team member right now. I'm really struggling to communicate with her in a way. I can tell that the way I'm communicating with her is kind of really lowering her self-esteem, which means that her productivity is kind of off, and I just don't know how to communicate. By the end of the session, they're talking about their 4-year-old toddler. I'm just using that as an example. You said you have a 4-year-old son, because actually what they're realizing is the connection between how they're communicating maybe with their 4-year-old and this team member. There are some similar threads there. And I will then say, you started off talking about your team member. Now we're talking about your son. Where would you like to go for the rest of the session? And they may say, actually, it's not any of those things. Actually, can we talk about my mum? You know? And I'm like, great, let's do it. Because of having that space. Or they may say, let's go back to the team member, but can I put a pin in it? And to be honest, Tess, as well, you said about therapy. Coaching is very different from therapy. But the reality is, therapy isn't for everyone. Coaching isn't for everyone. Surfing isn't for everyone. This is the thing about self-awareness, though. But also I say that with the caveat of we also have to be careful that we don't go out into the world making our lives very small, where we're always saying, I don't do that. That's not me. That's not the sort of thing I like. Which is why I think it's important that I will do things that are not the sorts of things that I would generally do. Example, I was actually co-facilitating a retreat in Fiji with the author Elizabeth Gilbert. And we were hanging out one day and she said, I'm going to have a day off today. She said, I imagine that you are too. And I said, no, I'm going to go on the party boat. She goes, what? I said, yeah. I said, I'm going out on the party boat. She goes, what? Why? She goes, normally I'd go on the party boat and I'm having the day off. I said, yeah, but I think I'm not a party boat person, but maybe I am a party boat person. She goes, okay, I'll see you later. Let it be said, I'm not a party boat person. I did have my tools. I took my book, I took my watercolors, and within 35 minutes of the tequila shots coming out at 9 a.m. in the morning or something like that, the music just being so loud, I went up to one of the crew members and I said, how long are we on the party boat? And he was like, 4.5 hours we generally dock in, And look, I was there, I had a great time, but it established for me, I'm not a party boat person. But I'm glad that I did.
I know that party boat. I actually got the tender to come and pick me up and take me off it. But I used to
really? I didn't know that was an option.
No, you can. You can get the hotel to pick you up on the speedboat.
But that's the thing, going back to this idea of risk. That's the idea of going back to this idea of risk. At 20, that was how I knew I wasn't a party boat person, but I thought, but actually maybe I am, because I loved the women that I was with. Like, we were having it was a week-long retreat. We were having such a great time. I wanted to spend more time with these women, but being confined on a boat for 4.5 hours with really loud music, not actually how I would want to spend too much more of my time. I could happily be on a boat where everyone was kind of painting the sea.
Yeah. And I love this form of it is almost like you've got a growth mindset, but you know who you are. And that shift of identity, for me, definitely when I started doing the work, the shedding of people and who they thought I was, I was the party girl, but now I'm the one who tries to get the hell out of there. When you shifted your identity and you moved from, one of the best keynote speakers in Australia, in Melbourne, well, if not the world, you're living in Melbourne, and then you take on the identity of the flower farmer. What was that like for you? And I like to talk about baking is my energy tester. When there's shit everywhere, I'm in a bad mood and I shouldn't be baking. Is that what happens with flowers? You don't harvest the best crop when you've got stuff going on?
Well, it's an interesting thing because I'm both things. So I am still a keynote speaker and a coach and a flower farmer. And it works really well for me. For me, it was looking at a few years ago, how can I create a life where I can be in a space, because basically the farm is my muse for my writing and for a little bit of my coaching and the retreats that I run now. How can I create a life where I can be a contribution in terms of speaking and a coach, while also growing beauty in the world? You know, my activism as a young person was very much on the front line, on the streets. And now my activism is growing beauty in the world and inviting people into that beauty through my writing. And so for me, I now have crafted my days that in the morning, I'm kind of at my desk, I'm with clients, I'm doing admin, I'm writing. But then kind of after we speak today, I'll be out on the land for the majority of the afternoon. And then that kind of feeds me for then my work at the desk for the next day. And I think one of the beautiful things about the time that we live in is that we can create these ways of working that don't necessarily have a title. You know, like it's just that I, as Kemi, know what I connect with. And I have to have those things so that I can authentically connect with the work that I contribute to others. So one of the beautiful things, you know, about that is that I always have flowers on my desk. And I have to say that the flower farming started 3 years ago, in that I've got 170 peonies in the ground. I've just spent the last 3 weeks on my hands and knees weeding those peonies.
Wow.
But I don't get like an official crop until 2027. So that is when, you know, I'll be really looking at how I move those peonies. And for me, once again, looking at, do I need to exchange them for money or cash? Or is there a way that I can contribute this beauty in the world in another form or another way? And I don't have the answers and I don't know the hows. I just knew that I wanted to spend my life energy growing more beauty in the world, to remind us all that there is so much beauty regardless of everything else. Alongside, there is also beauty.
That's beautiful. Now, with every episode, Kemi, we have an AIA Do It for Life toolkit. And so based on the back of that answer, I'd like to ask the first of 3 questions. Number 1, is there a shortcut to finding that beauty?
Yeah, pay notice to the natural world around you.
Okay. Well, that's tip number 1.
That's
easy.
Yeah. Like, seriously, you know, that there are horrible things going on in the world, but the reality is always has been. It just depended on where you were looking from.
Yes.
And what privileged seat you were sitting in.
Exactly.
Right? But also people that are in very challenging times in their life and in the world, everyone is connected by this one planet that we all get to live on. I'm in autumn here, or Warang season here, and I can see beautiful autumn leaves on the ground every single day with the colours of the sunset in them. You know, so that's what I mean. The hack is pay attention to what's around.
Yeah.
There's beauty everywhere.
Yeah, pay attention to what you're paying attention to.
Yeah.
And ideally, direct it towards nature.
Yeah. I love, I heard you speak the other day, Kemi, and you were saying often we check in with everyone else before we check in with ourselves. So we jump online and we go on the news or we look at Instagram and everyone's telling us how they feel before we've even given ourselves the moment to check in to see how we feel. And then from that, can you help us reframe how you can look for the things that you can control versus on everything else you can't?
Well, I don't know. I mean, for me, that connection piece, because one of my core values is connection, but it is connecting to myself first. That is the most important thing. I have my meditation and my journaling practice so I can check in with how do I feel today. Because if I'm not feeling great, I might it's probably best that I don't have that conversation maybe with that person, or if I have a choice to not have that conversation, you know, to be able to think, I need to connect with myself today before I connect with anybody else. And I think there are, you know, people will say, I'm a control freak, I'm a this, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before about knowing ourselves and kind of our egos and our wounds and our comforts and how we get seduced. That once we get a picture of kind of who we are, there are certain things that we do need to control because that's what makes us feel safe, right? And that needs to be okay on some level, as long as it's not kind of impacting other people negatively. And then there are other things we can't control, like maybe global events. but can we control smiling at our neighbor in the post office? 100%. 100%. And it's those little things that don't feel like much are actually the things that add up. The news and the media we let into our hearts and into our bodies and into our heads has a massive impact in how we see the world. And so when we're going around and people are smiling at each other and a kid is playing with a dog, and it's like, yes, all of that is happening in the world. And this is also happening. Everyone is looking at this child that's just dropped their ice cream and the dog is licking it up and the child is talking to the dog, right? And there's a connection piece that's happening there. If we're on the screen and we're watching a war, we miss the kindness and we miss the beauty.
And then we see more war, and then we're having arguments, and then the ripple goes the wrong way, right? So is that what grounded success is?
Oh, let's go back to what you had.
What you
was
said.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. No, I just heard this beautiful quote a little while ago, and it was this idea of everyone's talking about the war out there, but actually we should be looking at the war within us, that's how we bring peace. Look at what is warring within us, whether it's within ourselves or within our homes or within our communities, because that's where we do maybe have some agency and control, unless obviously we are working in government and we work in the news. Grounded success, is an individual woman's kind of guidebook to work out what does success mean to me in this season of life. So it isn't a one fits all. For one woman, it is going to be, I want to be a corporate leader in an organization that brings big impact and change in the world in this season of my life. For another person, it's, I want to be at home with my children until they go to school. And there are the women that want both. And then what does that look like for them in redefining success in their season? For some, it is, I want to be traveling the world. I don't want a home. I just want to be traveling and meeting new people all the time. And for other people, it's, I want to build a stable home for me as a single person or with my family. And I don't want to travel around, so success changes for all of us. I think the mistake we make is kind of looking at other people and thinking that their success is what we want. And what I talk about a lot in the book is, it's not so much about what success looks like. It's asking that person, how does the success that you have feel? How does it feel? Because if they say, it feels like exhaustion, disconnection, burnout, and absolute manic anxiety all the time, that may not be a success that any of us are after. But if it's, there are some real highs and real lows, but most of the time it feels really good to be doing the work that I'm doing or spending the time with the people that I'm spending my time with, and I have the tools to manage when things get intense, then that may be a form of success that we're after. So the idea is to let go of this map that success is one thing that everyone wants for the whole of their life, because it isn't, because we're not the same person for the whole of our lives.
So profound.
It is so profound, and I reflect on where I'm at and what I want to feel in success, whether it's at home or at work or here, is just, and I get emotional thinking about it because it's taken me so long to get there, and I have weeks and days where I'm not in it, but success now feels like inner peace.
Wow.
And so when you say, like, are you at war? Who are you at war with? For so long, I was at war with myself. And whenever I've been out of alignment with myself, it's when, or anyone else or work or whatever, it's when I've been at war inside. So you can be nice to the stranger and to the coffee shop owner, and you can get on stage and say ta-da, and, you can have a family and all the rest of it, and it can all look great, but the inner war that I had was so great and can be so great.
What does it feel like when you're at war on the inside?
It feels awful. I think, Kemi, in the prep today, you asked, you were on the Resilience Project, and you asked the boys to feel what success felt like in your head, in your heart, and in your intuition, in your beautiful coaching. And when you said in your head, to me, that was the first thing that came to my mind was, you're not successful. How do you even know what that feels like?
Right.
So if that was
So did that stop you there and you didn't get to go to your heart and intuition?
Yeah, well, of course. Like that's what it does because I'm so I've spent so long trying to get the success that I have at home, and I've reached that in love and beauty and joy, and I wish I just had some more flowers. That now I'm challenged to feel like I don't want to give that up for more when I've got peace inside. So it's an interesting like dance that I'm playing with at the moment.
Well, that's an interesting premise, isn't it, Kemi? It's like, do you find with the people that you work with that it has to be one or the other? Like you can't have success and have a happy home?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it was more actually what you were saying, Tess, actually, because I thought maybe the question is, if it's expansive for you, pick it up if it works. Don't bother if it doesn't. The question is, how do I reach the success I want while maintaining my inner peace? So it's both, like it's like I can have that, but what are the things that I need to put in place so that peace is there? So example for me, I love being on stage. I love speaking to thousands of people. Absolutely. And then I love going home and not talking to anyone for a week afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, that means for professional speakers, and you would both know this as well, that kind of the model is to do as many speaking engagements as you can, right, through the year. But you cannot say no, you just do more. And I just thought, I'm going to hate this profession within a week if that is how it has to look, So for me, it's how can I stand on stages and speak and connect with a large number of people while at the same time giving myself the solitude and the connection to the land that I need to be able to stand on those stages. So it is 100% possible for you to have, the majority of the time, even if you just had 70%, I think most of us would be happy with 70% inner peace, that you have 70%, let's just say, as a number inner peace while also reaching for the success that you want. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive of each other, especially if we keep coming back to how does it feel? How does it feel? And then I think that would speak into your question around the saying yes all the time, because you can then go in and go, I just said yes to that thing. How does it feel? It doesn't feel good. And then we have to do the uncomfortable thing of, saying, I know I just said yes, I am sorry, but actually I'm now a no.
Yeah. Come and get that tender boat and pick me up from the party.
Yeah, that's great. That was a great ask.
I know.
I next find myself on a party boat, I will be getting the speedboat.
Kemi, the expansion point that you just gave me, my awakening or my wake-up call today was success doesn't have to be 100% of the time, that to release myself that 70% is okay. As high performers and a lot of the people that work with us and follow us and listen to this podcast, it's like all or nothing. I'm either peaceful all the time or I'm so unsuccessful. So I just want to credit you, Kemi, because I feel like a lot of women that we work with are so powerful, but it comes at a cost. And for you and what you've reflected to me and reminded me and mirrored to me today is grounded success, like powerful is calm, and it feels like peaceful when you're in your absolute power, and you are an absolute shining light of that. So thank you for giving that to us and to our audience today.
Yeah. And thank you for reminding me that the only one that needs permission is me. If I want to make the ask, I make the ask. Right? I've got to give myself permission.
So what are you going to ask for, LB?
No, Layne.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that's the thing, is that we all have to keep reminding ourselves, like for many of us, we have grown up this idea of we're waiting for permission for something. And it's just when we need to ask ourselves, who am I waiting for permission for? And then we're like, oh, there isn't anyone. Like it actually is me. And I think, as Tess was saying, that is the continual thing about doing this work, is that the same things will come up for us. We're still the same human with our stuff, but it's being able to catch it and go, oh, it's me. I'm the one that needs to give myself permission. Who am I waiting for?
Exactly.
So that's great.
Yeah. Well, you're a shining light of power and groundedness and success and joy. And we're so grateful to have had this conversation, because you've shed so much beautiful light and clarity on and provided language for things that a lot of us struggle to comprehend and understand and give clarity to. So thank you for Thank you for shining a light on joyfulness and play and just for being such a beautiful woman. So it's been a really enlightening conversation.
Yeah, what a gift.
I've loved working with you over the years, and I love having you as a friend. So thank you, Kemi, for your time today.
Thank you, Layne.
Kemi, how do people get more of you? Where can we connect with you? Can people work with you? How do we get more Kemi in our lives?
So if people are interested in working with me, they can go to my website, which is my name, keminekvapil.com, no AU. And if people would like me in their inboxes once a week, then they can subscribe to The Harvest, which is my weekly newsletter, where I share lots of things about value-based living, leadership, and the land, and the connections between all of those things.
Love it. And you also get a little coaching booklet when you sign up, which is awesome because we love it when you get the tools to do the work itself. I have done your podcast, which is The Shift. So it's like 6 or 7 minute lessons. I highly recommend everyone to do that on a walk and just use it as a self-reflection tool. But I hope and I trust today's episode has given you, our beautiful listener, something that you can focus on in your life. What are you waiting for permission for? And what is success to you? Where can you find more inner peace in your life? So if this episode resonated with you or you think a loved one would love to hear it, please share it with them. Don't put out your hand, walk beside them in it. And from us to you, Dream Team, we trust you will have a lovely week and we will see you next week on A Wake Up Call. Thank you, Kemi.
Thanks, Kemi. Toodles.
Thank you. Bye.
Have you been listening to this episode and thought, mic drop, maybe I'm ready to get coached or have some therapy, but you don't want to go all the way down and get a therapist? Welcome to the Awake Collective, where we do monthly coaching to help people feel accountable, supported, and they keep on doing the work that you hear in this podcast. It is life transformative, right, LB?
It's a community of support and like-minded people who are willing to keep investing in themselves, because what we do is we help people help themselves.
If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, then the Awake Collective is for you. So come and join us at awakeacademy.com.au and join us for monthly coaching, a community that supports you, and tools that you can use in your life to thrive. Let's go.
See you there.
Before we close, we just want to gently remind you that Awake Academy is not a licensed mental health service, and this podcast is not a substitute for personalised mental health advice, assessment, diagnosis, or treatment. What we share here is general in nature and is designed to offer reflection, insight, and practical tools for everyday life. Therapy can be life-changing, and we deeply encourage you to speak to your GP about your mental health and wellbeing options.